What do you do when you suspect that your employee or your coworker is under the influence of cannabis in the office?
Find out today on Medical History Mystery.
Hey, everybody, we are rounding out our conversation of dental professionals are humans too. And so last week we talked about if you suspect your patient is under the influence of cannabis, what do you do? How do you have that conversation? And what do we need to do to treat them appropriately and safely? But let's flip the script. Let's talk about you come into the office first thing in the morning and give the air a little scent, and maybe one of the assistants or maybe one of your doctors, somebody in the office is under the influence of cannabis. You can sniff it. You know it's there. What do we do?
Okay, so first thing you say is, "Did you bring me any?" No, I'm just kidding. So what do you do in this situation? It's clear to you, to other people, that your fellow coworker is under the influence of cannabis. It smells like cannabis. They smell like cannabis. Okay. First things first, realize that patients can be using cannabis. That's true. But your coworkers could be using cannabis and you wouldn't know it. But why would they use cannabis? Because dentistry is difficult. And sometimes what drugs we used in the past as recreational drugs have now become operational drugs. They no longer use the drug to recreate on their own time and, when they're just killing time at home. Now they use the drug to operate, to actually get through the busy, trying day ahead of them. And sometimes people say, I hate the job and the job hates me, but I know I could do that job way better if I'm half baked. So I'm going to use cannabis. All right. Now, the next thing is realize what? They don't have to smell like cannabis to be under the influence of cannabis. Because yes, smoking cannabis, vaping cannabis leaves a particular scent on you. But realize the patient could also be using edibles. Heck, I want to go to work and I want to be under the influence of cannabis. I ain't gonna smoke or vape. Somebody's gonna see me, somebody's gonna smell me. But an hour before I leave for work, I can swallow an edible and then all good the rest of the day. Maybe I'm gonna use a sublingual or buccal mint or other dosage form. Heck, you think I'm concerned with my breath being fresh, but really all day long, I'm under the influence of cannabis and you don't even know it. Maybe I'm wearing a patch. Maybe I'm wearing, a balm that I've applied. Maybe I have a suppository inserted vaginally or rectally. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't know about it. And if you found out, things have gone horribly wrong. So I could be using cannabis and you wouldn't know about it. But my behavior leads you to believe that something's not right. Okay, story time from me, right? I have termite damage in my house. Freaking termites. I know. Okay, so I hire someone to help me remediate the termite damage, and it involves hanging my kitchen cabinets again. The guy vapes, and I'm like, I'm really not happy that you vape. Oh, I'm just vaping nicotine. All right, you're not going to be here for very long. Fine. Pam, when I walked in the kitchen, anybody who has clear vision and a level would have realized these cabinets are not level. And I'm looking at the guy and I'm like, do you think that's level? He looks level to me. What did I say? I rehung them myself because even I knew they were crooked. So do I know the guy was using nicotine? I have no idea. It doesn't smell different if they're using cannabis. I don't know if they're using cannabis. Was he under the influence? Certainly seemed that way to me. But I would not accuse him because that in itself could be considered a problem legally. So all I can do is observe. And then if I'm your coworker, I go to the person in charge of your office, the dentist, the office manager, whoever, and say, look, here's what I think. I want it anonymous, but I want you to ask this person because ultimately that affects me as their coworker and it affects my patients. And I need to know if this is true or not. If it's not true, fine, I take it all back. But if it is true, I need you to mete out some disciplinary action. What's it going to be? Is it going to be never use cannabis again? Are they going to get fired? Are they going to get suspended? Whatever it is, I need to know that because my ultimate purpose in this office is to keep my patients safe and to keep my coworkers safe. And I don't want somebody who's under the influence of cannabis running, equipment in the office and things can go bad quickly. All right. Now, So you went down that road and you reported your coworker. Don't expect things to go smooth after that because word travels in a dental office. So be prepared to face the repercussions. Yet that should not dissuade you from doing the right thing. But as we said in a previous episode, they could live with somebody who uses cannabis. They could drive in a car where somebody prior to them used cannabis. So I understand it's a healthy suspicion to have, but be ready to have someone try to back that information up before you make that accusation. And above all, my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a social, counselor. I would not confront that person directly. I would take the appropriate steps, follow the chain of command, and make that obvious to the person in charge and let them deal with the situation.
I think it's also worth mentioning that you need to have a handbook in place. You need to have policies ready to go because you can't really have the conversation and then create policies after because that doesn't really bode very well from the standpoint of your team and from an HR perspective. And honestly, it's really hard to make an overall suggestion in scenarios like this because every state is different. And even some states consider cannabis and CBD, they use those interchangeably. And so while they might not smoke or use vape or something in the morning before they walk in, there's also laws about what do you do the night before? What do you do the weekend before? And so there are specific laws in each state, and it's important that we as dental professionals know that law so that either if you do partake, you make sure that you are well within that safety, that safe limit of time between using it and being back in front of patients. Or if you're in charge of HR in your office, you better know so that you, when they have that conversation with your team, you know how to act appropriately.
There are state laws, Pam, that protect the use of cannabis, even in the workplace. And there are state laws and municipal laws that not only protect the use of cannabis, but actually prohibit you from asking your coworker or your employee, are you using cannabis? It's a medical right that's protected by law. You must, as you said, well put, have a policy that you've run by an attorney in your area, in your municipality so that you know all of the applicable laws have been followed and that you are well within your rights to not only ask, but to mete out disciplinary action if necessary. And also, that's why not only a policy, but your employee handbook should reference this as well. So anyone starting in your employee knows what is your policy on substance use in this office and in my free time. Those are the only ways you can protect yourself. I'm not a lawyer. I don't plan to give out legal advice, but just common sense means you consult an attorney so that you're on solid ground because these types of issues can and will happen.
And while there is the recreational use of cannabis and other substances, there are plenty of professionals that are struggling with substance abuse. And there's a lot of resources that are out there. And also, there's a lot of laws that hopefully will protect you. There's a new bill that was just signed in Massachusetts called the Dental Diversion Bill. And so, if you're from Massachusetts, look it up because it's interesting that it protects professionals with substance abuse and it will hopefully help preserve their dental license while they are in recovery. And so if you're struggling, there are resources out there for you. If you suspect in your practice, make sure you follow the law.
It's not always adversarial, is it, Pam? Sometimes it's a cry for help. Sometimes it's, I wish somebody would approach me about this, and maybe that would give me the courage to address it, and maybe they can provide me direction as far as resources and things I can use to ultimately remove this from my life. So sometimes it's important to have the conversation, but again, I would always defer up the chain of command to the person who's best qualified, and that way you don't sow the seeds of discontent amongst the rest of the team.
Beautifully put. So great topic. I'm glad we brought this up. And again, it's good conversation to bring back to your practices and make sure that you have policies in place. If you have a handbook that you signed and maybe didn't read, because I would say nobody actually reads their handbooks, check it out. See what your policy is and see what your responsibilities would be in your respective states.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Pam. I appreciate you.
All right, everybody. We'll see you all next week.
Take care, everybody.